Hey, good afternoon everyone, it's TractorMan 44 here. Today we're going to play around with a couple of rounds I've got sitting here. You can tell obviously by me standing next to them that they're of considerable size. I never throw the tape measure across them, doesn't really matter. We have the good fortune of stumbling into a situation to where a tree trimmer on occasion brings us material in, and we never complain about what material it is. Doesn't matter what kind of wood it is, doesn't matter what size it is. He'll go ahead and drop it off and everything, and we just tickle to death with it. But consequently, we have to recut things on occasion. This here in particular is one of those cases. Now these things, whatever that diameter is, it's going to be 32 inches or thereabouts. We're going to have to cut these down just a little bit. We're going to make roughly a 16 inch, and then whatever's left over a 10 or 12 inch. And that's okay, it doesn't really matter because like I said, it all burns. We have a variety of furnaces that takes a variety of lengths of wood, so it's not going to matter. The other thing I wanted to point out is don't be too upset if you see me run a mowed chainsaw in shorts. Safety is up to the individual that's running a piece of machinery, whether it's a chainsaw, or a double bit axe, or an old tractor, or whatever. You know, it's your own personal prerogative, whatever you want to do. That having been said, I applaud everyone that does wear all the safety gear. I think it's absolutely great that you do. Professionals in the field, they have it streamlined. They wear exactly what they know they need to be safe. But again, they do it continuously, do it for a living. They know what they've got to do. We're just country boys, you know, that do what we got to do to keep warm in the wintertime. Sometimes we actually stay warm in the summer too, because today it's pushing 95 Fahrenheit. If I can get my big old beast started, I'm going to go ahead and fire that sucker up and get in here and go to whacking some of these. Now if y'all bear with me, I'd like to pontificate just a little bit about what it is that I'm doing in particular, because everybody has their own way, their own technique, their own reason for doing what it is they do whenever they're cutting wood. You know, I've been around this stuff since I was, a little kid. Started off with the crosscut saws with the old man and everything, and then graduated to chainsaws. His first one-man chainsaw still weighed 30 some odd pounds. Man, it was a monster McCulloch with a 24-inch bar, and the guide bar itself was about that thick. We had a two-man saw before that with a 36, a 48, and a 5-foot blade on it. and of course it had the big one handle on the end, you know, for the second guy, and a set of motorcycle handlebars on the other end, you know, for the operator, and the blade would actually be released and it would go from vertical to horizontal. You talk about a trip, now that's a trip. Guys are spoiled this day and time, trust me, let me tell you. If you ever been on the end of a misery whip, which is a two-man crosscut saw, or on the end of a monster Mall, M-A-L-L was the brand of two-man saw that we had. All the manufacturers had them back in the day. But if you've ever been on the business end of one of those, you know what I mean too. I still got a couple old Model 99 power heads and a 4-foot guide bar that is just like the old Mall, except for it's a McCulloch brand. I'm getting sidetracked. Kind of like Gator. Gator gets sidetracked every now and then, so I'm sure y'all forgive me. But if you notice, whenever I'm cutting, I'm using a big saw here, and what that is, that's an MS660. That MS660 is a horse. I've got a 440 that would do the same thing, but the 660 does it with much more finesse. It just doesn't hardly grunt at all. I stick it every now and then, you know, because I got a real aggressive grind on that chain, so it's really biting some pretty good chunks, you know. But at any rate, if you notice, I'm going down pretty close to the bottom, and I spend time looking here and there and maybe rolling a piece around. That's because when you get wood like this, that we have to shift around and move with a skid loader or a tractor, you're going to get dirt and mud, you're going to get debris embedded in the bark, and whenever you got an expensive saw with an expensive chain, you want to make sure you minimize the amount of time that chain comes into contact with dirt, where there's dirt on the ground or dirt embedded in the bark. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I try to keep the dirt on the opposite side, so whenever I get down to it in the cut, I can stop cutting. Then what I'll do is go get a smaller, cheaper saw, has a cheaper chain, stick it in that kerf and whack that last little bit out after I take an old double bit axe and kind of knock a lot of that mud and that stuff that's stuck in the bark free. Learned that from the old man years and years ago. He would just scream bloody murder if you went to stick a chainsaw into a bark that had dirt or mud lodged in it. You know, it's just something that kind of stuck with me. That brings us back to the old saw. Now this is a MS660. Oh, it's not the biggest. I mean, they make a 880 and a 990. Husqvarna makes big saws and everything too. But this old fella here, it'll take whatever you dish out and it'll just eats it for lunch. And of course, I got my Kent hook. I think you've seen a video, or some of y'all seen a video on my son-in-law making me a new handle for it. So I got my little guy here, which is my favorite. Like I said in that video, that day was the best day of the rest of its life, because you know we use our tools, we don't baby them. And this is another bigger, longer Kent hook. I think it's pretty much the same grip as what that one is, but it's a longer handle. Gives me a little more leverage for moving these things around in the pile. This is an old handle my dad made years and years and years ago, and I had to bush it up just a little bit with tape, you know, to get it to fit that collar. But that's okay. That's my second favorite. And of course, I got the old 290 here. I think it's it's MS 290. That's going to be the cheap saw that I'm going to stick in and cut those grooves out. And then we come to the double bit axe. You got a double bit axe. I don't know how you guys do it, but the way I was brought up, you kept one bit sharp and you kept one bit dull. And by sharp, what I mean is the one bit on the one side you kept sharpened at a very, very, very steep angle like this right here, so you could sharpen it and it would take less force to force that particular bit through whatever it is you're cutting. Now, even when we had one-man saw, the old man still made us guys trim almost all the branches up to about 4 inches in diameter with a doggone axe. You know, so if you ain't got a sharp axe, you're swinging like crazy. So we'd like it to keep them good and sharp. When you hit it with a good swing, usually with one pop, with the correct hit, right up against the trunk, 2.5 inch branches gone with one sweep, you know what I mean? So that's our sharp bit. The other bit, you want to keep a dull bit. Now by dull, it can still be exceptionally sharp on the knife edge or on the edge of it, but by dull, I mean that you sharpen it with a very short cutting edge with a very reduced angle, something like this right here. Or I guess that would be an inclined angle. This would be more of a reduced angle. So the sharp bit is more like this, less of a taper, and then the dull bit is sharpened like this right here. Reason being, you're using your dull bit in and around the ground, and you got rocks and stuff around, trim and brush. You want to use your dull bit because that thicker bit, ground like that or hand sharpened like that, is going to have a less a tendency to put a big notch in the bit of the axe, making you do so much more work to sharpen it up. So you keep you a dull bit that starts off exceptionally sharp, and a sharp bit that starts off exceptionally sharp. Now what we always do, the old man got me onto this years and years ago. Always mark it with a little bit of yellow paint because I just serviced this axe. And what we'd always do is every time you sharpen it, clean up and sharpen up your axe, you're ready to go to the woods, put a little bit of fresh paint, a little bit or a lot, doesn't matter, you know, on the dull edge. That way, at a glance, you just pick it up, you're getting ready to cut near some rocks or whatever, you're getting ready to dust you know, mud off the bark and everything. You pick it up and at a glance, you know, you're going up to your shoulder and you see, oh, you know, your peripheral vision picks up that sharp bit, you know, getting ready to come down. Well, you just flip it around, you go ahead and you make your swing, and you know you're not going to do any damage to your sharp bit. Keep your sharp bit for all the business, and then keep this here for the monkey business, or the stuff that you got to do in and around rocks, dirt, and mud. So at any rate, my break time's over. That was entirely designed to give me just a little bit of a reprieve. I'm going to move some of these around a little bit and go ahead and cut those little slabs off. The majority of them are running about 20 or 22 inch, which leaves us small slabs off of the end, which will be fine. There's not a problem at all. We split those in a different fashion for heating wood. But at any rate, hey, we're going to get back to work, man. Break time's over. Case in point, if you take a look right here, there's where I stopped cutting from the other side, and I stopped cutting over here about 6 inches away. But if you look right here, see, that's mud, dirt caked in from whenever I moved them over here. See there? I had the sharp bit, you just flip it around like that. Now I got a good clear cut. I'm not going to be running mud and grime into my good chain. Boy, it seemed like all I'm doing is sitting down this afternoon, huh? Oh, I can't hear very good. There we go. Well, actually, I got to stop a little bit, you know, and roll some of these around and make it a little more accessible. But you can see the benefit to doing what it is we're doing. You know, we're taking wood that we can't use very easily by being those obscure lengths. I just want to keep everything at 16. It just makes it much easier for the lady folk, you know, handling the pieces of wood, keeping the fire going and everything, you know. So this is all about them, you know what I mean? Keeping them happy. So that's why we're going through the exercise of trimming these down. Virtually everybody's got their own way of doing things. And don't give me no trouble about cutting in shards. It doesn't cover that subject. Hey, but you know what? I got composite-toed shoes on, so I'm good from that end. Oh, by the way, I did take a chainsaw across my knee one time. I had a brand spanking new pair of Carhartt double thickness, double knee pants. Oh my gosh, they sent me back about 36 bucks or something like that. Dropped a doggone chainsaw across my knee and took it from one side of the kneecap plumb over the top and into the meat up here on the other side, and ruined that doggone pair of pants. Boy, that never forgot that. So this way, see, I ain't gonna ruin no pants. That being what it is, and me having said what I've said, this is it. This Tractor Man 44, and I am out of here, guys.